Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack, voted in high school most likely to get pursuity or whatever. Yep, we got a lot of things to talk about today and a lot of videos that I want to share with you. So I made some montages, multiple montages. Montage. Oh, it's a montage. It's a montage miracle. Just in time for the holidays and pumpkin spice everything. Pro tip, it's not pumpkin. It's not pumpkin. I'm not hating it. It's not pumpkin. When we think of the holidays, we think of House Speaker Nancy Pants Pelosi. And that's a terrible segue. But she was talking about impeachment, and that is our first montage. Oh, it's a montage, because we ain't trying to watch the whole dang thing now.
Last Tuesday, we observed the anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution on September 17th. Sadly, on that day, the Intelligence Community Inspector General formally notified the Congress that the administration was forbidding him from turning over a whistleblower complaint.
A whistleblower who doesn't seem to have any actual exposure to this conversation, seems to be a little bit political biased, and whose lawyer, Andrew Bocage, has worked with Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton.
The facts are these. The Intelligence Community Inspector General, who was appointed by President Trump, determined that the complaint is both of urgent concern and credible. And its disclosure, he went on to say, relates to one of the most significant and important of the Director of National Intelligence's responsibility to the American people.
Translation, we are imploding, and this is our Hail Mary. Danger, Will Robinson. Mueller report failed. Russian collusion failed. Stormy Daniels failed. Michael Cohen failed. Michael Avenatti failed. Omarosa failed. Tom Arnold failed. It's all but a failed. So, impeachment.
For more than 25 years, I've served on the Intelligence Committee as a member, as the ranking member, as part of the Gang of Four, even before I was in the leadership.
And thanks to your family, you've already got previous gang experience.
I was there when we created the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. That did not exist before 2004.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nancy. Before that, they were at least a little bit independent, but now they all fall under the same direction. Of course, let's not forget former director of the DNI, James Shut Your Yapper Clapper, who gave a sweet deal to Amazon on that cloud server that housed just about everything. Info on you, me, half of Congress, and probably half the world, right? And of course, this was an exclusive contract with Amazon. And of course, Amazon runs the Washington Post. And it's probably completely unrelated that Washington Post just happens to hate Trump so much.
Earlier in the 90s, when we wrote the whistleblower laws and continued to write them to improve them, to ensure the security of our intelligence and the safety of our whistleblowers.
Unless you're Julian Assange or Seth Rich, or anybody who's ever worked with a Clinton.
Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry.
Translation, help.
The Times have found us. The Times found them.
Wait, what?
God bless them, and God bless America. Thank you all.
Madam Speaker, never before has the president been convicted by the Senate.
All right, and in case you didn't catch that last part, she said, wait, I think if I'll slow it down, she said, no, she said she wasn't taking any questions. She looked super confident. You might even say gazoober confident. Well, POTUS is also uber gazoober confident, saying, come at me, impeach me, brah. And his attorney, Rudy Kiki and the Giulianis, was on Ingram earlier. Check it out.
I think the Democrats have stepped into something way beyond what they realize. It reminds me of a fighter who was swinging wildly against a really skilled fighter who has a great right hand and puts him right down.
Round one, fight!
They have walked into something that I was hoping they'd walk into for 6 months, and what they've exposed is probably what's going to turn out to be one of the major scandals of the early part of the 21st century, which is Joe Biden. It's a lot of money, Laura. It's not just Ukraine. It's a pattern of conduct. It's a very serious pattern of conduct. It really goes back to small-time stuff when he first got into the Senate with his brother, who was enriching himself on Biden's public office. And then the numbers got outrageous during the Obama administration.
Yeah, it was an
China paid
conflict
for Joe Biden's office. China didn't invest in a drug-challenged son with $1.5 billion. They bought the vice president of the United States. And even I never knew the depth of this corruption. It's massive. It's shocking. And if I played a role in getting that out, I did a service to my country, and I'm proud of it. And everything I did is defensible, and everything I did is legal, and most of what they're doing is to cover up for a crime. And then the prosecutor that Biden helped to put in, one of the things they did was to dismiss a case against an organization that was collecting false information about Donald Trump, about Paul Manafort, and feeding it to the Democratic National Committee.
Okay, that explains
that
it to
organization
people.
was
I don't
run
think
by
people understood that.
That was run by George Soros, who then hired the crooked FBI agent who is now working for George Soros. Laura, this stinks.
It's wrong. So what is the deal about this Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S.? Because part of this story, again, broke tonight, is that you were putting big pressure on her as part of this scenario. Yeah, the U.S. ambassador, excuse me. U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine, excuse me.
Look, I was sitting in my office in November of 2018, and a very prominent investigator that both the gentlemen you just have on know came to me and told me there's a story about the Ukraine and what the Democrats did there that'll shock you. And I didn't believe it at first. Biden wasn't involved. It was all about collusion, which, by the way, is massive, right? I mean, and people were paying for it, like George Soros. And the American ambassador was deeply involved in it. And the FBI agent who was investigating it was deeply involved in it. She is now working for George Soros. The FBI agent is working for George Soros, making hundreds of thousands of dollars. She was involved in it back then. In January of 2016, the Obama White House told Ukrainian officials, go dig up dirt on Trump and Manafort. Oh, Nancy Pelosi doesn't care about that.
Never before has the president been convicted.
All right, well, this is going to prove to be a glorious fail, and I have a feeling this is exactly what Trump has wanted. We've mentioned this before, that it seems like Trump is almost daring them to go impeach, because impeach is really going full-blown moron, right? And this doesn't have enough votes in the first place. They're most certainly, if they even can get it through the House, they are highly unlikely to ever get this through the Senate. This has already been proven to be unpopular, especially ever since the Mueller report. Now, what President Trump is going to do is going to go ahead and release these transcripts of this conversation between him and the Ukrainian president. That's going to be done sometime today, I believe. And it seems to me that he's pretty confident that this is going to, pretty much show that there was nothing really going on. The Democrats are trying to push this idea that Trump was pulling one of these quid pro quos on the Ukraine unless they decided to investigate Biden. And of course, this is the very same thing that Biden did in regards to his son being investigated, and threatening to fire unless they fired the prosecutor, threatening to hold back money. This was back when he was vice president. So this is going to be really, really interesting, and I have a feeling this is where it's all sort of supposed to come down to in the first place. It seems that if Democrats are going to just go full-blown moron, like I said, then they're going to have to go with impeachment and just go ahead and push this through. There's really no other option for them. They understand what's at stake. They understand what's at stake with D-Class, and their only hope has always been to impeach. And of course, we've talked about this for quite some time. Q has talked about it for quite some time. Now we're just seeing it, but it doesn't look like it's going to do anything other than put a hot light on Biden, probably get rid of him in the race and whittle it down to whoever it's going to be, whether it's going to be Bernie or whether it's going to be Dances with Wolves, Warren. I don't really know, but it looks like what we're really going to do is thin out the herd. CEO of 8chan, Jim Watkins, also had a few things to say about 8chan. It's not the greatest audio here, so dial your ears in a bit. Check it out.
That we're all kind of waiting for, and I think a lot of people, if you look at Twitter, Facebook, you look at pretty much everybody who was deplatformed from we do need to address this, Jim. And I wanted to tell you, when we are able to get terms of service approved, when do you expect to be back on the air?
I'm expecting, well, all of our equipment's in place. We're just fine-tuning and testing stuff now. It took a while because of the Hong Kong. A lot came through, and so everything was delayed. But we seem to have everything in place now, and we're testing it on a domain that's innocuous, and I expect like as soon as we get SSL certificates up, and probably Monday or Tuesday, we can have something online for people to use again. And this time it'll be more secure, and it will be more resilient because we'll have less points of failure. Like Cloudflare was just a gigantic point of failure for. And then once they said that we were like the demon Nazis from the deep south, you know, they decided to, you know, nobody in America would do business with us the last month.
So there you go. 8chan should be back up, maybe even by Monday. We shall see. It remains to be seen what's going to go on with QAnon, if we're going to hear from QAnon soon or not. I have a feeling there's still a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff trying to make sure that this doesn't go down. But hopefully at least we'll have a working version of 8chan, and hopefully something that's even stronger and better than before. Nice! Now, I want to take you back to Pittsburgh real quick. If you remember my video from the other day, we were talking about this event in which all these people were found with these orange wristbands, and some of them had died. Some of them were really sick and in the hospital. There's about 4 of them in the hospital, but about 7 all told. We don't know if there was any more, but that's what they found. 5 of them were found in this apartment, and I've got it kind of zoomed out here a little bit because I want to give you an idea of the whole area. But if you can see kind of center right where my mouse is here, right around where this Southside Works was where the apartment is. And I showed you this little complex over here too, where they were doing some stem cell research, things like that, a place called Immunetrics. Now I want to point out, I'm not casting any aspersions there. I just wanted to point out that there was some stem cell work being done nearby. But whatever it was caused a little bit of a health scare. They weren't sure if this was some sort of fentanyl related kind of thing. We haven't really heard a big update, but people were found dead. And there was a little bit of a health scare for a while, and then they kind of dropped off. Now, I also pointed out that if you look over here up top here, in top left of your screen, the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, they were incidentally having a basically an active crisis drill going on. And this was being announced by this public safety officer. And his name is Wendell Hisrick. And I pointed out that he's not just a public safety officer, but he is also the chief of police, and he was the one that was the spokesman both for this active crisis drill, but also the spokesman for this incident with the orange bands. And I found that very interesting. So they were announcing these drills. I don't know exactly what happened with these drills or what was really going on, but I also want to point out here, and you can see this little ad here, thanks to Anons. A lot of you guys kind of got on this story, but it looks to me like they got a little convention going on over here at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, along with this active drill. And oddly enough, it has to do with immunetrics and histocompatibility. How about that? So maybe I wasn't so far off, but I also want to point out, I got a few tips from some of you too, that there was a nearby possible evacuation drill, which will be happening today in the nearby U.S. Steel building, which is right here. And I asked some of you guys to take pictures of that area if you could. Now, hopefully everything is okay over there. I want to point out that the Heinz Center is over here too. So this was a really, really curious neighborhood. And if you watched my last video, it's entitled Orange Band Bad. It's from a couple days ago. I pointed out that there's 2 FedEx centers around here. I'm not going to zoom in on them here because I'm having some slow internet, but there was also a Planned Parenthood. And so I was noting that the Planned Parenthood, the FedEx centers, and of course the stem cell research in the nearby areas here, I found to be curious. And again, I'm not making any accusations, but I just wanted to point out that it was curious. It was also curious that this public safety officer, Hissrich, who also happens to be, doesn't surprise me that he wears a couple titles, but I found it interesting that he was a spokesman for both of these events. And then we get word of this possible evacuation right in the same neighborhood here at U.S. Steel. Now, I don't know if that's gone down, if that's going to go on down today or not. I hope everybody stays safe if you're in this area, but keep your eyes open. But I also want to point out, as we zoom out here, kind of in this area just north, we had a lot of activity, and thanks to military spec ops monkey, he turned me on to a few different aircraft in the area. Kind of top of your screen there, I'm kind of giving you a rough estimate, but as you can see, these are all Air Force craft right there, and look at some of these flight patterns. I mean, who even does this? Now, maybe this is completely normal, who knows, but this was all going on at the same time. So maybe we are, who knows, maybe this is just some random military exercise, and I think that's fine, but I find it very interesting that you had some people dead nearby right at the same time all these different events were going on. And oddly enough, of course, my nose just sniffed out the stem cell stuff and the Planned Parenthood stuff because I've been researching that for other stories, but I found it very unique that in the same building as this active crisis drill, we also have this Immunetrics convention going on from the same very dates. Now, as I zoom in, you can see at the top of your screen is this David Lawrence Convention Center. Just below it here is the FedEx Office Center that I showed you. And then down below, down here, which would be at the bottom left of your screen, if you can see that blinking, is the other FedEx. And then right smack dab here in the middle, right here where it says the H here, kind of center of your screen, that is the Planned Parenthood. And I wanted to point out over here too is the U.S. Steel Tower. And at the top of that are the offices of the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. Here's an article from 2017. For pediatric cancer patients, their chances of having children in the future can be diminished by treatment, but an experimental treatment available at UPMC could preserve fertility for young boys going through radiation. Spermatogonial stem cell transplantation involves taking a sample of testicular tissue and turning pre-sperm cells into viable samples. When reinserted into testes, even if they're damaged by radiation and chemotherapy, the sperm cells function as they would naturally and become sperm. The service is offered to the parents of any prepubescent boy undergoing radiation, according to UPMC pediatric oncologist Erica Frayling. If a boy is old enough to give consent, they're asked a series of questions to ensure they understand and agree to the procedure. If they are too young to give consent, the decision is shifted to the parents or guardian. Parents and patients seem to be interested in hearing about it because it speaks to our hope that they've cured and leading a healthy, normal life in the future, she said. So far, 110 boys have their samples stored at UPMC. All right, so this is pretty interesting, and it doesn't necessarily sound nefarious, but just given what we know, given the area, I thought that might be of interest. Now, here's a heads up for you from Chicago 5 NBC. Lincoln Park Zoo prepares for active threat exercise. An active threat response drill is scheduled Monday at Lincoln Park Zoo on the north side. Preparations will start about 3 p.m., and the drill itself will begin after the zoo, 2001 North Clark Street, closes to the public at 5 p.m. Therese Kordylewski, a spokesperson for the Chicago Office of Emergency Management and Communications, said in an emailed statement. That sounds like a complex group. The exercise is expected to last until about 9 p.m. As a part of the planned field training exercises, OEMC and the Chicago Police and Fire Departments will test their response time and communication capabilities during a possible incident at the zoo. During a possible incident at the zoo, Kordylewski said. Lincoln Park residents should expect to see a large number of public safety vehicles and personnel in the area, as well as simulated gunfire, Kordylewski said. Okay, gunfire at the zoo, but probably no big deal. So there you go, Patriots. Eyes on Pittsburgh and Chicago. Please stay safe out there. I want to point out that over by the zoo in Chicago, there's multiple museums there. Wrigley Field's not too far north of there. Navy Pier's not too far south of there. There's a lot of things going on. It's right along the water. A lot of great museums along that whole border there. But anyway, there you go. So if you hear something or see something, please say something. And I've got some major computer problems, so I am going to go back to trying to fix those. But as for now, that's all I got for you. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that already. I greatly appreciate it, especially right now. And for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome to you. Please understand that you're going to get unclicked and unnotified and unsubscribed subscribed. Happens all the time. Just do me a favor and check yourself back. That's just a little battle that we have against social media. You don't need to let me know. I'm already aware of it. Believe me, I'm very aware of it. But you can do me a favor and just re-click yourself, and I would greatly appreciate it. All my alternate links are down below. Gab, BitChute. Got a new Gab, IPOT 1776. And of course, I'm at Twitter at IPOT 1776. All those links are down below. I highly suggest you join me on another one in case I get booted off of YouTube, which, you know, you never know, could happen. All those links are down below. My email is down below. If you want to send me some information, please, 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 please do not DM me. I appreciate it if you would email me. That's the one place I check all the information. I greatly appreciate if you guys help me out with that. And if you'd like to support my channel, my Patreon is down below. All those links are down below in the video description. All right, Patriots, this is Sir Patrick Mack. Until next time, stay safe.